Go ahead.
Okay. Our mission. Helping Parents Heal is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting bereaved parents to become shining light parents by providing support and resources to aid in the healing process. We go a step beyond other groups by allowing the open discussion of spiritual experiences and evidence for the afterlife in a non-dogmatic way. Affiliate groups welcome everyone, regardless of religious or non-religious background, and allow for open dialogue. Attendance today at this meeting is voluntary, and we are here for the benefit of learning from and sharing with other parents whose child has passed away. It is understood that our discussions are intended to be confidential and not designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. Helping Parents Heal offers a wide variety of speakers to allow parents to be informed about many possible ways to heal, to connect with their children, and to learn about the afterlife. The views expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect those of Helping Parents Heal, and we ask that you take from their presentations whatever may benefit you personally. Thank you, and welcome, Ann. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Irene. Wait. I need to introduce you, though. I am just so thrilled to be able to do this, too. I just want you guys to understand that this is possible for everyone through what Ann says in her bio. Ann Albers is a popular author, spiritual instructor, angel communicator, and modern mystic. Her free weekly Messages from Ann and the Angels reach an international audience with inspiration and tips to help you stay tuned in and turned on. She loves to help people experience the power and beauty of their own soul and develop a blissful connection with spirit. Ann wasn't always a mystic. She entered premed at Notre University and graduated with a Bachelors of Science in electrical engineering computer concentration. And she got an amazing job in the avionics industry, but she was miserable. She started to pray, "Dear God, whoever, whatever you are, please help me wake up happy, go to bed grateful, and make a living doing something I love." Her prayer was the key that opened the door to a whole new life. She started to experience dreams and coincidences. Teachers and healers appeared. She learned the language of silence and to discern the rich tapestry of signs and symbols. She started receiving messages from her angels and began to enjoy the mystical world of energy. One day, when she least expected it, she clearly heard voices which told her to turn in her resignation the next day. She took a leap of faith and never turned back. If you want to learn more about Ann, you can visit visionsofheaven.com, which I will type into the chat box. But please, without further ado, join me in welcoming Ann Albers.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. You're all so beautiful. I don't know if you see the same picture I do, but I just see your faces like a beautiful mosaic. And when Elizabeth brought you on, I could feel this amazing swirling joy. That's the only way I can describe it. I want to cry with the joy of it because I feel your kids in spirit. They're so excited to see you gathered. They want you to know, some of you do, some of you are just learning, that you can access them just as easily as I've learned to do, and that they are, it's bliss. I can't even put words to it. I was quiet earlier today saying, what do y'all want to say? And they wanted me to start out by saying you had great courage. They acknowledge all of you. They, without exception, these kids want you to know that it took a lot of courage before you were both born, before you were born, before your children were born, to come to an agreement, to come to this planet with the possibility that your child might leave early. They want to acknowledge the phenomenal courage and the love that it took to be a parent who would agree to something like that, to love kids. In some cases, they left accidentally, you know, according to our way of seeing things. In some cases, they left through very tragic means. But in any case, they're in bliss and they're learning, and they learned from their experiences here on earth, which you know. Sometimes one of them, a young man's in my head saying, Richard or Dick or something like that, he said I was a late bloomer, but you know, he's telling me he was learning in heaven afterwards, and you know, by looking backwards. But in any case, They do learn, and they want you to know that their job from heaven now is to help you learn that you are so much more than these bodies, these lives, that there's a reality that's vast and loving and so powerfully loving that we can't even scratch the surface of it unless we begin to feel it. And that's how 90% of you all are psychic, is feeling. If you want, you can raise your hands. How many of you feel things? You just feel like they're around you. You have an idea perhaps that they're around you. You don't know how you know, but you know. Or you think of somebody, yeah, and they call you on the phone. Most of the people I talk to when they're beginning to tap into their own intuitive abilities have a strong, it's called clairsentience. It's a big fancy word for clear feeling. It originates in the gut, the stomach region. You have a gut instinct. Science is beginning to prove finally that the gut has as many nerve cells as the brain. They actually call it the enteric brain. It senses things, and it actually can talk to the brain too. So there's just beginning to be scientific research showing that the gut is actually quite capable of picking up signals the same way our brain is. And our brain is, what's our brain really, but something that processes energy. Energy comes in from the outside world as waves. It comes into our eyes. It hits the back of the eyes, which turns it like a computer to electrical signals. And then the brain processes it. And then we see things because our brain is making a picture out of the energy that's coming into our eyes. And likewise, we have waves of sound that come into our ears, and they're just energy. But it's in our brain that our brain turns these energies into an experience of music or sound or voice. And so without even thinking about it, we go through our lives really not thinking about this much, but we are processing energy all the time, turning it into what we see and hear and feel. And there are waves of energy that are beyond our normal physical senses that we know about. For example, bees, I don't know if you knew this, I learned this, bees see ultraviolet light. Now, normal light is like this. Ultraviolet light is a longer, slower wave. And bees can actually see ultraviolet light emitted by flowers, and it helps them zero in on the flowers. I thought that was really cool. And dogs can hear sounds with let's see the dog whistles, sounds that we can't hear. So they have a different range. And really what it means to be a medium or to be psychic is really just to learn to tune into those signals that are outside the normal range of your normal senses. And some people, for example, this is more rare. No, not rare. I would just say a little less common. Some people see spirits. I have a few friends who will go into their garage and somebody's playing on their old piano in the garage and they're like, oh, you're not physical. And that's just seeing beyond the physical range, because people in spirit are at a much higher vibration than even, infrared's real fast vibration, but they're at a much higher vibration. So most people's brains aren't yet processing that sort of wave that comes into the eyes anyhow, but they're not processing it. But somehow most of us have nerve cells in our gut that science doesn't yet understand how we pick up on these vibrations of our loved ones, because they exist as much as we do, and they're, emitting energy just like we are. It's just a much faster, higher vibe because they're not in this dense body anymore. They're in a spirit body that is much lighter, it's perfect, it's healthy. Whatever they went through on earth, even if they were disabled, they're perfect on the other side. I've met lots of people on the other side that would show me they were dancing or something, and I didn't know why they wanted to show me that. It ends up they didn't have legs on earth or something, and they're showing that in their spirit body, which is much lighter and higher vibrational, that it's a perfect body. It's a perfect reality in the sense of feeling healthy and vital and happy. So our bodies, our physical bodies, have these receivers for those higher energies, but most of us weren't taught from a young age that we can use them. So when you're starting out trying to perceive your children, I want you to trust these instinctual feelings that you have. When you feel, I know you're around, you do know. You do know. Now, you might not be able to prove it to yourself yet, but that's okay. You can tell your loved one, I think I sense you. And if it is you, if you could give me a sign later today, or you could try to, make someone talk about you, or, or maybe I could see a butterfly, or you could just try to give them little ideas as to how they could get through, and kind of play a little game with them of, okay, I think it's you. Could you please confirm it? And over time, they get creative. Some of them are really good engineers. I used to be an engineer. Some of them are good engineers. They can flash lights. Anybody had that happen where your lights start blinking? I've been doing a lot of Zoom readings lately instead of, I don't do in person right now. But in any case, whether I was with someone in physical or whether I'm doing a Zoom, there are times when my lights will just start flashing because the spirit's having fun playing with them. Now, not every spirit is a real good engineer. They don't all know the same things over there. So if they're not flashing your lights, it doesn't mean they don't love you, but that's just one of the little pranks they play. Some will just draw your attention to things. Has anyone ever just looked up and seen a license plate that was perfect for whatever you were thinking? That's one of my favorites. I call it an angel text message. And I always tell my spirit guides and all the people I work with up in heaven that I love that. Give me more license plates. It just makes me laugh. My all-time favorite was after my angels told me I was being stubborn. I was driving and I got stuck behind two cars at a stoplight, and one was abbreviated well loved and the next one was an abbreviated stubborn one. So, you know, they do this all the time. Other signs you can get sometimes are very, very typical signs. Many of you have seen butterflies, birds, kind of nature doing something very odd. I've actually had people, I had a friend once who lost another friend, and she was talking to this friend in spirit saying, you know, are you ever going to find my husband? And the cloud formed a perfect engagement ring later that day in the sky. So I don't have any clue how they managed to do those things, but there are times when you see weirdness in nature. There are times when something just keeps coming on the TV or the radio that will remind you of them. Now, they can influence station programming, that's true, but they can also kind of give you the little bug in your mind as to when to turn something on. So, you'll do it without even thinking. You just think, I want to listen to the radio, and then all of a sudden something comes on that reminds you of them, or a song comes on. Years ago, I walked into a store and I was just having the thought, I hadn't had sugar in months. Gosh, I'd like some sugar. And I walk into the store and the music starts playing, I Want Candy. So, they play with you. They do what I call divine dates with you. They'll just give you the urge to go do something or look on the computer at something, and it's just perfectly relevant. You run into somebody that, maybe needs to tell you something, or you'll find something on the internet that's just pertinent to what you were thinking about. The coordination in heaven is ridiculous. I to this day, I marvel at how they accomplish this. Now, if you're not having all this happen yet, don't despair, because especially when you're in deep grief, it's a little harder to pick up these signals because we're hurting. It's just that simple, you're hurting. And sometimes when you're hurting, you know how it is, you get tunnel vision and you can't quite, pick up on outer signals just yet. So be easy on yourself. And I've shared this technique before, but I want to share it with you again in case you didn't hear it last time. There's a little very easy technique the angels prescribe that over time will help you develop a more tangible relationship with your kids. And by tangible, I mean something you can feel. And that is to pick a time every day, or at least on a schedule, where you can commit 1 to 2 minutes. That's it, 2 minutes. And you tell your child in spirit, okay, let's make it up 8 o'clock every night before bed, or in my case, 1 a.m., before bed. I'm going to sit with you for 2 minutes. And I'd like you to figure out a way to get through that I can perceive. And so you set a timer so you don't go crazy. And during that 2 minutes, you make yourself a little promise that during those 2 minutes, I'm going to think only of happy memories. That if I start feeling sad, I'm going to make myself focus on something happy. I'm going to focus on how much I love them. I'm going to try to keep basically what you're trying to do is keep your vibration a little higher during those 2 minutes. That's why we don't want to do it too long at first. It might be hard. So you try to keep your vibration high by thinking of something funny or loving, or you get your favorite picture and you look at it and you imagine that. And then your only other job is to scan your body with your mind and see if you notice anything different and give them feedback. So I guess it's 3 parts. Number 1 is to think of something happy. Number 2 is to scan your body during those few minutes. And number 3 is to give them feedback. And the feedback might be very simple, like I don't feel anything yet. And that's okay. It took my grandpa 6 months before we figured something out, okay? So I did it every day. I'm a medium. I could talk to him in my head, but I wanted to feel him. And so every day for 6 months, I sat there and I said, okay, Grandpa. And finally, one day, several months into it, I started feeling a little warmth on my hand. And I said, oh, how exciting. I'm starting to feel a little warmth on my hand, on my right hand. And then that was it. The next day got warmer and warmer and warmer. And now when I feel a nice warmth on my right hand, I know it's my grandpa. And it took us a while to figure it out, because on their end, they're there. They're trying to figure out a way to get through. and they're sending you energy, but they don't always know. They're not all engineers, you know, cosmic engineers. They don't always know how it's going to affect you. And they tend to, most of them, try to start out a little lighter. You know, they don't want to buzz you too much, or they don't want to send your heart into palpitations, or, you know, do something that would feel uncomfortable. So here are some signs that people have reported. Sometimes there's a little warmth somewhere. You might feel a little tingling, a little fizzing sensation. You know, I had one young man that used to like to do this with his mom's hair, and she would feel just a very light tingling sensation on her head. Some people have a heartbeat that just a little differently, beats just a little differently. Some people feel an expansion, almost like they're floaty, and they're feeling a bit expanded. So anyhow, you just repeat that exercise over and over, and don't get discouraged if you don't feel something for a long time. Some of them figure out very quickly. Some of them take a lot of trial and error. But if you just persist, eventually you'll start to feel something that's kind of your little signal. And eventually they'll figure it out how to do it consistently. So it's just a comfort. You know, it's a big comfort. It's not necessarily receiving thoughts and information from them, but it's just a comfort. It's like a little handshake from spirit, or a little hug from spirit. Now, some of you, if you're willing to just sit with them and sit with them and sit with them and sit with them, might get to a point where you start feeling what I call very floaty. Has anyone ever felt that sensation where you're sitting there and you just feel expanded, and you feel a little bit like you're in a slightly altered state? If you haven't, it's okay. But if you sit with your child long enough, over time, I mean, a couple minutes at a time, you may get to a point where you start to feel very relaxed, and you're not really thinking much anymore, and you just feel a bit floaty, you know, like you're having a little relaxing kind of, not quite sleep, but just almost like you're a little expanded and floating. That's a beautiful space if it happens, because in that space you just sit, breathe, and receive. They just are giving you energy. They're starting to elevate your energy field. You're starting to feel that lightness of being that comes when heaven gives you a hug. And if you don't worry so much about the signal, you can actually sit there and say, I just want to feel your energy wrapped around me. And you might feel that floating sensation. And it's delightful, because what they're trying to do is to give you a little taste of the love that they're feeling in heaven. They want you to feel the love that they feel. And it's very hard when you miss them, but if you're in a space where, for whatever reason, you get lucky enough that you can just let go of that for a little while, not forever. I'm not saying you're not going to miss them. I'm not making grief wrong. But it's just that when you're in that space of surrender, they can get a bigger energy through to you, and it might just feel very lovely to be in that space. It's kind of like that space where you're just relaxing finally at the end of the night, falling asleep, but not quite being asleep. So if that happens to you, tell them you like it, and tell them you want them to do more of that. The feedback is really important. Anytime you think you get a sign from your child, give them feedback. Tell them you like it or not. I had one lady, and she lost her husband, not her child, but she kept telling him she wanted signs. So this man was banging everything in the house. I don't know how he did it, but she'd say, no, not that. That scares me. So then he'd have to come up with something new. And no, not that. That scares me. So they kept it up until finally he figured out something that was acceptable. But they don't mind. They're in a relationship with you still. They're not, their bodies died. Their spirit is still very much alive and very much in a relationship with you now. And they very much love the connection. And they're going to work at it just as hard as you will. And your job isn't to work too hard, but rather to surrender a bit, to put the grief aside just for a few minutes, to talk to them even when you're in grief. If you sense them, you know, maybe you do get through, or you notice something that reminds you of them, say, that reminds me of you. Are you giving me a sign? You know, and just keep relating to them. Even if you're not convinced yet that it's real, just keep relating to them. I think most of you do that. You still talk to them, yes? Most of you? Good. Because there's nothing they really bothers them a little bit is when you treat them like they're gone. They understand grief. They understand that when you're grieving, you feel that way. But they want so badly to continue to be part of the family. I've talked to a lot of young people who have passed who like to, in their words, not mine, photobomb. So if you ever take a picture at night with a flash and you see you know, orbs or funny lights in this picture, a lot of times they'll try to get in the picture as energy. So if that happens to you, you know, that's yet one more way that they tend to make contact. I've seen all sorts of crazy things. But they want you to know that they're still part of the family. They're still part of your life. They're not physical, obviously. They can't do the physical things they did. When you're in the light, there's no sense of, what can I even put it? You know you're loved no matter what you did, no matter what mistakes you made, no matter who you hurt. You know that there's a higher source that loves you. I had the privilege of standing in the light once. It just appeared out of midair after I had been transmitting energy. I saw like a pinprick of light 20 feet away, and it just kept growing and growing, and it was coming at me like this. And I remember thinking, are you going to beam me up? Is this it? I didn't know why it was there. And I think I was just given the experience so I could talk about it. But when the light touched me, it was like rays of light that were alive. It's hard to describe. They felt alive. And when they made contact with me, they didn't stop at my skin. They went in me. I could feel them going in me. And I could feel as if love itself, I'm going to cry again, love itself was penetrating not just my cells, but my soul. And I could feel as if everything in me was accepted. Even those times when I wish I'd been a better person, or I wish I hadn't said something awkward to somebody, I could feel that light witnessing those things in my soul that I wasn't even aware. I'd forgotten about them, witnessing it with tenderness and love. And it was way beyond forgiveness. It was one of those sensations of there's no forgiveness needed. You were just learning. So that light that penetrates a soul upon death is a love, really, that the only thing close to it is a parent's love, because you love your children unconditionally. Even when you didn't like them, you loved them. But this is like on steroids. It's so profound. So they know that they're loved. And they not only know that they're loved by this source, whatever you choose to call it, but they can feel what you feel. They can feel your love. They can feel it as if it's their own. That's a big difference between heaven and earth. On earth, I'm an empath, many of you are, so you can feel other people's feelings to a degree, but they can feel it as if they are you. So they can feel the magnitude of your love. And even if you're bawling your eyes out with sadness, you know what they feel behind it? The love. They once told me, we don't mind if we feel your pain because we're sitting in it with you, we're holding you, but what we feel really underneath it is the love. So don't ever make yourself wrong for grieving. I think you know that, but grief is just liquid love. It's an outpouring of love because you just want them to know it so badly, but I guarantee you they do. They always tell me, I feel so loved, it's almost embarrassing. A few of them have said, because they might not have always let it in on earth, but that's the difference. In heaven, you don't block love. That's why heaven is heaven, really and truly, because in heaven, you do not block love. On earth, we have free will. We can block it all we want. We can think we're unworthy. We can think we messed up. We can think we made mistakes. We can block it in a million different ways. But once you get into that light, it's so overpowering that you stop blocking love. You don't block it from whatever you consider higher power. You don't block it from your loved ones on earth. So even if they pushed you away on earth, they're not pushing you away anymore. They're soaking you up. And they're soaking you up as much as water feels a sponge. They feel it. They feel it. So they want you to know that they do know how much you love them, but they don't just know it intellectually. They know it because it becomes one with their experience. And it's profound to experience someone that way, to really not just know with your intellect, but to know as if it's your own feeling how loved you are. So please don't ever worry about that. They're not mad at you for grieving. I've heard people say silly things like that, that some psychic told them that they're upset because you're grieving. They're not upset at you because you're grieving. They understand, okay? And the other thing, I just don't know who this is for, but I'm supposed to tell you this. You cannot possibly ever hold them back. People have come to me and said, do I have to let them go? Am I holding them back? And that's a big fat no, because love does not hold anyone back. The point of our existence is love. So by loving them and wanting them to be near you and to be part of your journey, that's part of their journey too, to share that love with you. So you can't hold anyone back. It's not possible. In fact, most of them would rather be around you more now than they did on earth, because when they're young, they're off doing stuff and everything. But when you're in spirit, you want to be near your dear ones. There's a desire to connect that's much, much stronger. So they just love you so much. I can't even there's no words for this. So how do you deal with feeling bad about it? Because there's absolutely no way as a parent you're not going to grieve. I mean, you're human, my God. And I don't think anyone ever imagines a future, where the child leaves first. It's one of the hardest griefs that a person can go through. So what they want you to know is that while you're grieving, they're holding you, they're loving you, they're understanding that this is coming from a profound love within you. They would like if they could say something, each and every one of them, and I've heard this from kids over and over, to let you know that in their eyes you have done nothing wrong, because they understand in heaven that every interaction between the two of you was part of their soul's education on this earth. So whether you tried to smother them or whether you pushed them away or whether it was something in between, they understand that this was part of their education. So they're no longer in a mindset of making wrong. They're no longer in a mindset of pushing away. They get it. And so if you're still faulting yourself for something you did or didn't do, really one of their big requests would be, please let that go, because it's all about the love now. Because in their reality, it's only about the love. In fact, they'll often tease their parents, about some of the interactions they had that were less evolved, and they're quite over it. They're not at all making you wrong. And that's one of the things I experienced when the light touched me, because, I'm human. I've said things to people that didn't mean to come out bad, but did. And I could feel that love just accepting everything and showing me the perfection of the dance between two souls down here. There's a weird perfection to all of our interactions, as hard as they can be. We learn, we grow. So they love you so much. They just want you to know that. Now, I want to share a little story, because this just illustrates how they managed to orchestrate things. On Monday, I met a friend for breakfast for the first time in 6 months. We've been kind of limiting social interactions, obviously, on this planet, but it felt right. So we just happened to pick a time and a place, and it was, one of those, hey, what do you want to do? How about here? What time? How about this? And it seemed very random. Haha. So we go sit outside, and as we're dining, a very beautiful but quiet presence of a woman walked past us, and we both noticed her. She had a light. She had something inside of her that just emitted strength. But we kept talking because we hadn't seen each other. And when my friend went in the restaurant to get more coffee, I started a conversation with this lady. And wouldn't you know it, she had lost her son 2 years ago to the day. To the day. Now, I rarely do this because I don't like to, impose my beliefs on anyone, but her son was in my head. And I said, well, I'm one of those medium type people, and if you'd like to talk to him, I said, he's pretty strong right now. And she looked at me like, is that real? And I said, well, I don't want to force my beliefs on you, but if you want, we can see what happens. And so she said yes. And he came through with such a magnificent, loving, angelic presence. And he had not always been magnificent, loving, and angelic down here. He had been murdered, in fact. He had mixed up with the wrong people. But his presence in heaven was pure and beautiful and just so loving with his mother. And he was funny. I mean, he said some things that were private. I don't want to share them, in case she watches in the future, it's private. But he said some things that were so funny and so accurate that she knew without a shadow of doubt it was him. And he wanted so badly to give her that peace of mind, so badly, that he called her to breakfast, dining outside by herself. And he probably had a lot to do with getting my angels to poke me to be at the place at that time, too. I happened to be dining with a friend who was an ex-grief counselor. So she was able to help the lady by running energy, when she was crying. And it was just one of those moments where you know that you're not in charge. And your kids will go to great lengths to try to get you into a place or get you to click on a button or to turn a television on or to listen to a radio thing. They'll just do whatever they possibly can to try to convince you that they're around. It's not always running into, mediums at breakfast with smiley face masks on, but they'll just do whatever they can do. And, I think we were all very touched by that. It's happened to me many times. There have been times when I'm in the middle of work at my computer, and all of a sudden, it seems like a really great time to go grocery shopping. Mid-sentence, I'm writing my newsletter or something, and usually I like to do things one thing at a time, but it just seems like a good idea. So I find myself packing up the purse and getting in the car, and, I'm driving there going, this is weird. What's up? And there I run into one of my clients whose son has passed. And she looked at me and I look at her, and we freely talk about this, so it's okay. She's like, Chris. And I said, yeah, Chris. You know, because I've run into her at Lowe's, Sprouts, Home Depot. You know, this kid of hers orchestrates meetings, and he even sends people to the gym where his dad works if he thinks that these people need counseling, because his dad likes to do free counseling. So they're just such a big part of your lives. And even if you don't feel them yet, just open your mind a tiny bit to say, okay, I don't know how this is going to happen. I don't know how you're going to get through to me, but I'm giving you a challenge up there because you're the one that has it easy. So you figure it out. And it's true. They do have it easier than us on earth. They're in bliss. They're in, you know, eternal love. They're at home. They're where we started out and where we'll all go back. They don't have to worry about taxes, COVID. You know, the big joke in heaven now is there's no social distancing up here. They're just like so full of themselves over that one. So, you know, they just, it's their job to try to get through to you. So you don't have to try so hard. All they want you to do is try when you get an instinct to follow it. Try when you get a feeling that they're around to say, I think I feel you. Try to just listen to yourself more and more and more, because it's when you listen to yourself that you actually hear them. And when I say hear, it's not always with ears. I wish I did. Honestly, I'm not there yet. I'm praying and praying and praying to hear the voices. I've only heard them outside my head twice. That would be lovely. It would make my job a lot easier. But mostly for me, it's feelings that I've just learned over time to translate into words, the way you learn to translate a foreign language. So your feeling sense is profound. You know, I always hear they like to joke about Ben Kenobi in Star Wars talking to Luke, trust your feelings, Luke, you know. They're always in my head repeating that line. But if you do that little by little by little, and you challenge them a little bit and say, I'm really willing to try this. I don't know quite if I believe you or not, or maybe you do. I'm not quite sure how this is going to work, but I'm willing to play the game. Could you please figure out ways to get through and try to, you know, do them repeatedly enough so I get the clue. Because spirit is funny. Spirit will try over and over and over again. I once knew, I might have told the story, but I once knew my body needed something different. I couldn't tell what it was. I'm not medical psychic, but I just felt I needed something. Okay, spirit, tell me what I need. Well, shoot, my car needed oiling. So I brought my car in. Door started squeaking. So we oiled the door. By the time my washer broke down and the guy said the ball bearings needed oiling, it dawned on me that I needed more oil in my diet, because everything that needed oiling was happening all at once. So when you have repeat type things like that, that's another way that they can get through. Sometimes you'll see a sign, you'll have a conversation, you'll get a thought, and they all kind of match. So those are other ways that spirit can get through. Some of them are creative that way. I'll never forget, I had one client, she lost her son also to, she lost him to suicide. He had gotten involved in drugs, and he told her later after the fact that he committed suicide so that she would know where his body was, because he was going to be murdered otherwise. So it's a very sad story. But he was so active in her life, and she was a very darling woman from the Philippines, and her husband had been a military man, and they were married for years. And she told her son, I'm asking him if I can use his name, and he said, yes, okay. So she said, Johnny, I need a new car. My car's about to break, and I need a new car. Could you help me with a car? Long story short, mom and dad go to Las Vegas for a very, short 2-day vacation. And there was a competition where you had to pick a purse out of a pile and you could win a car. So she's like, Johnny, which purse? And the husband, who really was starting to trust his feelings, said, we're supposed to pick that one. And he went straight under the bottom of the pile and pulled one out. They won 2 cars. They won the double bonus. They won 2 cars. And I'm just so she comes in my office. She's like, he gave me 2 cars. And I said, oh my God, they're not all that gifted. So when I tell these stories, as mediums, we tend to tell the stories that stick out, that are a little more dramatic, of course, because they're fun. But in most cases, the stories are a little tamer, where you just get the signs, or you get something repeating thoughts in your head, or you feel a little tingle. But don't discount those little things either, because that's the beginning of the connection.
Anne, can I ask you a few questions? There is so much information in this chat box right now, and so many people are asking things. But first of all, I just want to quickly say, Beata is saying, thank you for this. I was feeling so bad and you uplifted me. I love your spirit and energy. Paula is saying, beautiful. Sherry saying, this is so beautiful. Adriana is saying, thank you so much. Your words are medicine to the soul. I have, Carol is saying, thank you so much. I love everything that you're saying. But then I also, another Carol is saying, this is so good to hear. Thank you so much, with lots of O's. There's just so many things that, and she's saying, from a mom who had a child pass from drugs.
Oh.
Wow, thank you. Wow. So, but there are questions that people have, and I know that you could help them and make them feel better about these things. One of them that I think is an interesting question is being asked by Paula. She's asking, how do we know which angel is our angel?
Okay, well, I asked that years ago. So it's a great question. I actually asked a shaman, a Native American medicine guy. I said, how do I know if it's, Archangel Michael or my grandma? And at first he joked and he says, pay me. And I said, oh, quiet, just stop it anyhow. And he said, who's the first one? Well, he made another good point first. And he said, if it's good information, he said, it doesn't matter. So number one is, if you're receiving something loving, just take it. But finally, when he got around to my question, he said, the first one that pops in your mind.
Okay, good. That's perfect.
So for example, you can very quickly say, who is this? And trust the first answer that pops into your mind.
And Lindsay's saying, I talk to my son and I have good intentions, then I might start to cry. Does that chase him away?
No, not at all. They love you. Remember, even when you're crying, they just feel your love. For example, when your children are little and they're crying, that doesn't chase you away. You just pick them up and hold them more. And they do the same for you when they're in spirit. So not at all. They understand it. They do not judge like we on earth judge ourselves.
That's beautiful. Teresa is asking, will they get other past family to help them get through?
A lot of times, yeah, if you have a relative in spirit that's been there a while and they know how to get your attention, a lot of times they'll take the child under their wing, so to speak, and teach them how to get through. I've seen that many times.
Well, there's lots of people talking about different ways that they feel their kids. One of them is ringing in their ears, which I also get. Also, people are saying that they are more in touch after a yoga practice, which I think is interesting as well. Mm-hmm. Tingling. And then let's see, Anna's saying she talks to her boys every day. She has 2 boys in spirit. Which is the best way to communicate, by talking out loud or in your head?
They can hear either one, because what's happening is, whether you speak out loud or whether you talk in your head, you're sending out a vibration. Yeah. And that vibration is received by them and then turned into the words in their heads. Like, they once explained to me, they were so excited when we had Wi-Fi and cell phones appear on Earth, because what we're using basically is a form of Wi-Fi that's far more refined than our current technology. One of them was like, it's infinity G, they were joking. But we emit an energy, so it really doesn't matter.
Either way is okay.
Yeah, it's energy that's going out.
Susan is asking a really deep question, and I love this. She and her husband are affiliate leaders in Canada, and they're both wonderful. He's actually a medium and has become one since their son Greg passed. But she's asking, how do souls decide who is in their soul pod? How does that come together?
Okay, there's not one single answer, but the angels say typically it happens that you have certain objectives when you come to Earth. You have certain things you want to learn. And just like we have best friends down here, at the soul level, we have people that we often love or that we've been with in other lives. Or maybe we've met somebody in heaven that we're, vibrationally compatible with. Our lessons are going to be compatible. And so there's a lot of what I call planning meetings that happen before a lifetime, where souls get together and they talk about their objectives. They talk about what they want to learn. And you try to find souls with whom you have compatible classrooms, learning experiences, and oftentimes ones that you've known in the past. So it's very flexible, but it's really based on the mutual objectives of everybody involved in that group.
That's wonderful. And it's interesting because Teresa is saying one of the things that she gets from her son is waking up at 3:27 every morning and smelling cigarette smoke. One of those times, which was really amazing. Rebecca is saying, today my toilet broke down. I had to use the downstairs bathroom. There was a penny on the floor. I went upstairs and there was a large feather on the floor. So obviously those things as well.
They're helping, this is kind of humorous, but one kid told me when a toilet broke, he says, we're just helping you get unclogged. They're just.
And so Carol is saying, I wake up at 3:17 and that's my daughter's birthday, which is beautiful. And then Lynette's asking something, are we part of the same family in heaven as we are on earth? Is that the same group?
Well, the angels say it's you will definitely see your loved ones and your human family when you go to heaven. Absolutely. And many times we tend to travel, like we talked about, in pods or packs or whatever word we want to use, groups that reincarnate together. But in heaven, there's a sense of everybody being your family. Yeah. And you have your special family that you've traveled with, maybe through many lifetimes. But they often tell me that in heaven, it just seems like we're all family. And it's just, it brings me to tears because that's what we're attempting on this earth, that we're not doing yet. But
kind of like we're all family and helping parents heal as well. I feel like it is that this is one big extended family and that we are all here to do whatever we can for each other. And I think that our kids are making us feel that way. That's the reason that we feel that way, which is wonderful. There's some other questions here, like, let's see. Oh, there was one that I just saw. Teresa's saying that she's afraid of the life review. Could you maybe go into the life review a little bit?
Yeah. First of all, sometimes the life review is kind of put in very human terms of, you're going to see everything and judge yourself. And, and all of that. But the angels say the life review is just educational. And so it really is about awareness. And if you were to just think of your past right now, anything in your past, you're doing a life review. You know what you did well. You know what you would have done better. It's just a matter of looking at things and saying, what can I learn from this? It's not punishment. And there is, actually, if you do a life review in heaven, it's easier than reviewing your life on earth, because on earth we judge ourselves and I should have done that better and I screwed up. And, there's all this judgment and unfortunately not as much self-congratulations and self-love. But in heaven, the life review is nothing but unconditional love. I'll give you an example that will help. I tuned in, and this wasn't a child, but this was a lady came and asked about her friend in heaven. That's all. She just gave me his name. And he was colorful, so excuse me. He comes through and he goes, you wouldn't believe where they took me to do my life review. The angels took me to a fucking tiki bar. He said, a bar on the beach, a bar, and he's swearing and all this stuff. He said, and they told me, I wasn't, in his words, a drunk. That's his words. He said they didn't put it that way, but he said, they knew I was a drunk. But he said, they told me I was one of the kindest, most loving drunks on the planet. And that even though, yes, I could have lived in a higher way and a less addicted way, everybody loved me. And everybody loved me, even if I was drunk. They were just concerned about me. So he said, during my life review, I saw that what I thought was my most hideous, shameful, horrible habit was to spirit just a way of coping with my sensitivity. And I was really very loved. And I could have really just absorbed all that love and said, well, I got a problem, but I'm still loved and I'm still a good person. And so to him, that life review was an eye-opener, that spirit, the divine, the angels, his relatives weren't judging him nearly as harshly as he was judging him. Now, say you did something really awful, and I've talked to some people in spirit who have been really awful. I had a friend who was raped since the age of 4 and until she escaped. And she, amazing woman, done lots of therapy, and she decided after a while she wanted to talk to her father in spirit. And he was keeping himself out of the light because he judged himself after he died and didn't feel worthy of love when he really, he hadn't gone into the light yet. And she was so strong. She said, would you please just get in the light? I have forgiven you. I've taken charge of my life. Would you please just go in the light and get healing, because this isn't serving anybody. And he bawled and he went in the light. And he later came back and said that during his life review, he realized that he was attempting to touch something pure, and that all his hideous, horrible actions came from a kernel of light that was very twisted, and nobody's condoning this, that was attempting to touch something pure. And we're bawling, we're all bawling, we're like, because, and she was like an angel that came to earth and was trying to help him heal, and she eventually got him in the light. So even in his life review, which was a tough one, because there's nothing worse than, you stand in the love of God and you realize that you were, in a sense, hurting yourself more as much as anybody else. But there's still forgiveness, there's still love, there's still understanding, because really the objective of our source is to bring us back to love, to bring us back to who we truly are, not to punish us, but to get us back. Now, what we do as spirits sometimes is we say, okay, fine, thank you, I'm forgiven, but let me go down to another life and learn a bit more. Do you have time for a story?
Yes, but I also was going to ask you, do you think you'll have time for the gaze? I mean, we usually go for about an hour. Would you be willing to do that, or were you not planning on doing that?
No, I can do, yeah, I don't worry, all I've got tonight is dinner and a newsletter, and that's no big deal. Okay.
Okay, well, we're all, I know that everyone would benefit from that. And but yes, go ahead, please tell your story.
Well, this is just an idea of, we're not judged. We're loved. We're welcomed home. And you who are parents know that even if your kids do something horrible, you'd welcome them home. You'd want them to be loved. You'd want them to know a better way. That's just what it means to be a parent. And if you can think of our Creator as the ultimate parent, it doesn't want to punish it, he, she, I don't know the right words. Doesn't want to punish us. Wants us really to just come back to who we really are, to that innocence. So I would say it's the life review is very therapeutic, but it's not a punishment. Anyhow, long story short, I had one lady in spirit. She had a pretty wicked mother, a mother that was very materialistic, that was constantly trying to doll up her daughter and didn't really love her very well, because she didn't learn that. She was raised in a family where money was king and nothing else. There's nothing wrong with money, but it was mishandled in her situation. So the mother was very materialistic and unkind and unloving. And she passed, and my client was kind of relieved, to be honest with you, because this was not a happy relationship. But she was curious, and she said, did you learn anything? And I didn't know much about the mother. The mother came through, and she said when she did her life review, she realized how many opportunities for real love she had passed by. And she was determined, because she was too stubborn to just love herself right away, that she was going to come back in another life. And she laid it all out. She was going to be born in a very impoverished family in a third world country. She was going to disdain her family. She knew it, because that's the way she is when she gets to Earth. Go seek a better life, go to a university, meet a rich man. She'd already worked it out with a guy who had, his own lessons. She was going to meet a very wealthy man. He wasn't going to be too nice. And she would eventually, hopefully, return home to realize what real love was with her family. So she could have just said, okay, I accept my lessons. I know better now. Let me just rest in heaven. But no, she was determined. I got to get it right on Earth. That was just her personality. So she had already decided to come back and create a scenario for herself where she would learn this. And it was one of my first experiences of hearing a person's planning.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I am just so excited about this. We have one question that I wanted to see if you might be able to answer beforehand. It's from Carol. She's saying, can you explain your feelings about soul contracts, please? I'm a little nervous about this, and I believe a lot. I just can't agree. I had a contract with my child, let alone anyone. This really bugs me. Help or not? Thank you.
No, I totally understand. And first of all, the angels say the angels don't care for the word contract, even though we all use that word. But they said, think of it as lesson plans and travel plans. And they are modifiable once you get to Earth. You can change them. So, for example, I've talked to some, and I'm not going to generalize here because everybody's got a unique situation, but I'll share something I've heard a few times. That I've heard cases where the kid says to the parent, I really am sensitive, and I picked a parent that would understand my sensitivity and try to help me, but I knew that I have a tendency to get hard on myself, and you knew that there was a possibility that I might just leave early because of it. And the only reason a parent would agree to do that, or to be a parent of a child like that, is a profound love, a love that says, I love you so much that I'm willing to take that risk. So contract, well, not exactly contract, but the angels say a love that's so profound, you'd be willing to give them a chance to heal something from, perhaps a pattern of theirs they've carried, and knowing that it might not work out. That's one scenario. There have been some scenarios, and I see this a lot with young males for some reason, like the ones that leave the planet around 20, where they just love adventure and they come down here and they're going to have adventures and they don't care if they leave early or not. It's one big adventure. And, you sign up to be their parent, hoping to get them to understand that you can have more adventures if you stick around. But, sometimes they're just out to prove to everybody on earth that, hey, there's no death. There's no, there's nothing to be afraid of. Let's live life full out and then get to the other side and still be living full out over here. So that's a personality. That's some of them I've met. I've met young children who died of cancer who said, I came into this family and now my family only wants to love. I came into this family and my parents agreed to do it because they knew that they would never want to do anything else but love after this. I know people who have started foundations because their children died from cancer. So contract, not exactly. You're not bound by anything ever. You have free will in every breath you take. But there are souls that are brave souls, like they started out this conversation with, that love so much that they would be willing to come to earth and endure an unthinkable pain for the sake of love. That they would be able to risk it. And their hope in heaven, I'm hearing one of them say now that the hope is that you as parents realize the profound depth of your love and the profound, amazing nature of your soul, that you would risk that sort of thing. Now, we would never do it as a human being, but when you're in heaven, you're like, oh, I know we're all going to end up here at the end, no matter what. It's kind of like getting on an amusement park ride that's risky, and then saying, well, I know I'm going to end up on firm ground eventually, no matter what the ride is. So it's hard to imagine while we're here in bodies, and I'm not trying to push this on you, but that's how they see it.
I think that's beautiful. And Carol is saying thank you. She loves that answer. And I think maybe if we could just have one last question. Lindsay's asking, I've heard that there are no negative feelings or thoughts in heaven. Is this true?
Yeah. And it's funny, they can even joke about their negativity, but they love themselves while they're doing it. It's kind of like if you're on earth saying, yeah, I got this habit of doing this and it's really stupid, but I love myself anyhow. They really do have a profound understanding that they're a soul having an experience. And they know that about you too. It's an awareness that there's nothing at the bottom level of all our behaviors. There's a desire to love or be loved. It can come out pretty twisted, but they can see the love that's trying to surface in every interaction. And so because of that, that's a very positive understanding. That's an understanding that's so forgiving and so loving and so present with something deeper inside of us than we can feel at times.
That's absolutely beautiful. And we have a meditation group after this. So some people are leaving, but hopefully we'll have some time to be able to do the gaze if you're willing to do that. I will be on here, and I know that a lot of other people will be staying for it as well. And I don't know if you need me to play music, because if so, I know how to do it now.
I've got some here. I've got the one I usually use. First of all, if anyone has to go, I love you all. Thank you for being here, and you can catch this on YouTube later. And if you don't have to go, what happened to me is clients for years had made me aware of this gentleman from Croatia named Braco, B-R-A-C-O. You can look him up online. And he just stands in the presence of love and gazes, opens his eyes and lets people look into his eyes. And all over the world, people have had profound healings or openings of their psychic ability, or cancer going away, or just crazy stuff. And you can check out his website, braco-tv.me. And he periodically does this for free. And so he had been touring the US, and clients had been telling me to go, and I missed it. I had to work, and I'm telling my hairdresser one day that I missed it again, and she hits me and she says, he's still here today, you should go. And I thought, oh my God, I have a million things to do. I've got an aging dog at home. But I heard spirit say in my head, go. So I paid her and ran and drove an hour and stood in front of this guy in a whole hotel room full of people. And for the first time in my life with my eyes open, I saw white light emanating from him, touching everybody. And as it touched people, I could see the light in them explode like you see in heaven. And it was profound. I had to go home and feed my dog. So I went home, and pains that I'd had for 40 years just disappeared. Period pains. I would have kissed the ground anyone walked on for that. So I went home, and in my sessions with clients the next week, the angel said, "You're going to be doing this." And I went, "Excuse me," and so I just surrendered, and this love started coming through my eyes, and people started having experiences. And Elizabeth had the experience of seeing last time different spirits moving through the energy. I can't guarantee that. I just know that I stand in whatever you consider to be the presence of the source of love, and I'll put some music on, I'll get in that space, and you can just look in the eyes and just feel what you feel and intend to receive love. That's really all it is. And it can touch your heart, and something else might happen. You might notice next week you're getting more psychic. You never know. So I'll just offer that. If should I just get the music on and dive into it? You want me to do? Yeah,
Yes, that would be wonderful. Maybe I should just let people know too. I wasn't expecting anything. And as I was looking into Anne's eyes, I kind of started to look above her eyes towards her forehead, but I was looking down with my eyes, and I saw my daughter Chelsea, and she wasn't the person I was expecting to see. I was expecting to see Morgan. And then as soon as that happened, all of a sudden her eyes and her facial features started changing. And I had just been putting together my emoji for Facebook. So it was as though I was switching out different parts of, they were being switched out and going through almost like a sliding glass door. Well, not a sliding glass, one of those doors that in hotels that you go in, and it just kept changing. And it was just amazing. And I felt this enormous love. So people are asking, okay, Dolores is putting down the website of this gentleman in Croatia as well. I was going to ask you that later, but I just want to let you understand that it might not happen the first time, but I've had friends who have watched you from that last time who didn't necessarily have something the first time, but then had something the second time. So it's important to also, Irene is saying, please change to speaker view so that you only see Anne, or just Anne, and then a few other little screens there, so that you're able to really look into our eyes. And we're going to try to be as quiet as possible, so I'll make sure that I'm muted myself. And thank you. And I do need anything else from me?
No, I'm just going to turn some music on and get in that space, and just intend to receive love. And if you can, just watch the eyes. And if you can't quiet your mind, just say something over and over in your head, like, I receive, I receive, I receive. And that will keep you in a nice space. And I hope you feel it. Let me just, give me a second here. Hi. Hi. Wow, I can't see yet. I mean, it's very bright. Oops. Mm. Thank you all.
That was beautiful. Oh my goodness gracious.
I can't honestly see anything through the light right now. I just felt their love. I don't know how to describe it.
Oh.
And there was one young man, I swear I don't know who it is, but I don't usually think in this space, but every now and then I hear something. When he got in the interview, like, woohoo! It just And there was another young girl, I think she was like either teen or preteen, and she was so cute. She was just like, I look pretty. She was just dancing around and, just really enjoying herself. They just love you so much. There's a love that's beyond human, that's so profound for you now. It doesn't even matter what went on between you on earth. Just try to trust that. Even if you don't feel it yet, try to trust it. Because the more open you are to that idea, the more you will feel it. And over the years, as I've become more open to receiving love, because I started out with enough self-judgments to pile a truck, I feel spirit more profoundly the more I treat myself well. So try to treat yourself kindly and try not to beat yourself up. And when you catch yourself, say, whoops, I'm sorry. The angels put me on a program once to apologize to myself every time I criticized myself. They sent me to the mirror and they said, say you're sorry. Sounded like my mom, So I'd say, I'm sorry. And they'd say, mean it. And as I stopped being hard on myself, I started to feel the love more. Because in the end, we're the ones that let it in or don't feel like we deserve it. It doesn't matter if you deserve it or not, it's there. This is not a love that requires you to deserve anything. The sunlight doesn't ask if you deserve light. It just gives. And the source, the God, the divine, whatever you want to call it, where your children are now basking in every day, they're basking in that love. They don't require you to earn it either. And that's hard for us to imagine, but it's very real and it's profound. And the more you can make peace with that idea that you're loved beyond reason, that you're loved without having to earn it, that you're loved whether you're in a foul mood or a great mood, whether you're crying or happy, the more you'll feel it.
That's beautiful. And everyone is saying thank you in the sidebar. Polly is saying, I watched your eye color change to bright blue, just like my son's, and felt him.
Aww.
Linda is saying, thank you, Anne, for showing me some of the beauty I am missing. Paula is saying, that was amazing. I saw my son in your face. Andrea is saying, that was powerful. Wow. Maria Garcia is saying, thank you so much for this evening. Connie is saying, thank you so much, Anne. Lynette is saying, I could see her face change from young to old and in between, which is actually what I was seeing as well. Rosie's saying, beautiful. Blanca is saying, thank you so much, Anne. Carol saying, thank you. Rosie's saying, thank you. What a deep reflection of love. Carol saying, so peaceful, which is true. Thank you. Victoria is saying, thank you so much. I felt my sweet Joseph the whole time. Sherry saying, me too. Lindsay saying, this was so needed. Thank you. Melissa saying, I saw the age change as well, which is, again, I saw that as well. Marie was saying, I was too. Joan is saying, thank you. Caroline saying, thank you. Kate is saying, I saw countless people from my grandfather, my mother, and so many others. So grateful. Susan is thanking you as well. Lori is saying, love you, Anne. Thank you so much. Denise is saying, thank you. I felt so loved. Jody's saying, I was feeling lots of anxiety today, but now I feel so much more peaceful. Thank you. And Natasha is saying, how incredible. Thank you so deeply. Susan saying, you're amazing, Anne. Love. Sherry, okay, wait, the love just came through. I did not think this was possible. Thank you so much. This was the most healing experience I've had since my son passed. And Melissa is saying, if we watch the replay, will it still work? Yes, Melissa, I just want to say that I have watched it and it works. So I don't know if you want to elaborate on that, Anne, but it will.
Well, gosh, how can I take something that's beyond physics? I'll try. Okay. they understand on the other side that we're having an experience of space and time here, and that love is so far beyond it. And the only analogy I can give when I tried to teach this is that if you're in an airplane and you're above a car, say this rock is a car, okay, I'll just do that. Let me do it this way so I don't spill it anyhow, or don't drop it. So say you're in an airplane, you're looking at this car, and he's on a road and he's driving from the past to the present in his reality. This is his past, here he is now, and he's driving forward into his future rather. Now you're in the airplane. You can see his past, his present, and any possible future he could be at right now. You're just up here, you're at a higher view. So when you're in spirit, you can see the past, the present, and the future all at once, and all the possible futures. You know, that question about contracts, there's a lot of possible futures. So what I'm doing when I'm gazing is I'm opening up to that area where there's no space and no time. And I'm opening up to something that will come through anytime someone connects with that moment. So I don't have the science, but I'm just doing my best here.
Okay, I have to also say, Irma says, I saw my son's face and yours. Today is 4 months that this nightmare started. Thank you. Kit is saying, thank you so much. Roseanne is saying, I saw my son looking through your eyes. And then Kay is saying, how do you do that without blinking once? Which I think we all wonder. How is that possible?
Sometimes the blinking happens. You know, I had an eye problem the last 2 months and I was blinking like crazy, and finally it's healed. So spirit takes over is the only thing I can tell you. Spirit just takes over, and I feel almost like, how do you describe it? Kind of like I've fallen back here and here's my body, and I can still sense what the body's sensing, but I'm not in charge. You know, it's kind of like it's out for rent.
Oh, that's wonderful that you allow them to rent you out to come and cheer up their parents. And Maria is saying that makes so much sense now, the description with the car. Thank you. And Anna Molina is saying, wow. Sonalia is saying, thank you so much. Rosie is saying, yes, amazing, no blinking. Hortensia is saying, thank you, needed healing. Dolores is saying, you are truly a blessing to us, Anne. So anyway, I just want to thank you again. You're just, every time that you come, I feel so calm right now. I did see lots and lots of faces. It was different than this time than it was last time, but it was really amazing again. And Paula is saying, thank you, Anne. I love to read your angel messages every Sunday. So this is something that's available that I'll put more information about. If it's possible, could you just let me know one more time the website of the gentleman who you met in Croatia?
Oh, so, I didn't meet him. Yeah, I didn't meet him. But I mean,
okay.
he came to the U.S. and he did his thing on stage, and I was just one of 300 people in the audience. But okay. Yeah, there's two websites. The one where he does the free gazes is
braco.me. Okay, I know that. I think Dolores already put
you know what? I can. Okay, I know that. Okay, and then the information website is. Oh, did I freeze? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but you're frozen. That's weird.
Okay, we all froze. All your beautiful faces. But braco.me is the informational site.
Okay, braco.me. Okay, I will. Okay, that is interesting. I don't know why that. Oh, you're gone.
I hope the energy didn't screw up the computer.
Well, that's interesting. I hope that it doesn't do anything to your computer, but in any case, we always ask everybody to say goodbye. Hopefully you can hear everyone so that people can unmute themselves and say goodbye. So everyone, she can hear you. So please just unmute yourselves, say goodbye, and thank you to Anne.
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you. Thank
you. Good night.
Gracias.
Thank
You're the best.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You were amazing.
You are blessed.
Gracias, Ann. Muchas gracias.